Hey everyone, it's Tim from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today, as you can see, we're taking a look at a product from Spyderco. And I'm not really big into unboxing videos, just not my thing, but I did want to unbox this on camera. I have looked at it already, but I wanted to show you one thing that you're going to notice when you get a product from Spyderco. They just take a lot of care and effort and pretty much the entire process when you get a knife from them. So I have actually unwrapped this. This sheath did come in plastic. But the knife, as you can see, wrapped in plastic. You take it out of the plastic. You've got cardboard around the blade here. Take that off. You've got a hard piece of plastic here. Let me show you there. Over the tip to make sure that it's nice and safe. So you take that off, and then you actually have another covering on the blade. And then when you finally take that off, you can see even the handles are covered to keep them safe during travel. And I'll hold this up so you can see. We're looking at the Spyderco Bushcraft UK. So even before we actually look at the blade, I want to show you some of the literature they give you with the knife. You can see here, it says the knife in this box has a high carbon, high performance blade and components that are not rust resistant. So basically it's telling you how to take care of your knife. The other piece of the puzzle, which I think is really neat, is they include this piece of paper, which I'll show you here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but as you can see on the top here, over here, it says Education, and it's basically telling you about what bushcraft is and where this knife came from. So just the opening line says, bushcraft is a tradition as much as a sport. It follows a regime of survival skills derived originally from bushmen of the southern hemisphere, and then it goes on to talk more about that, and it talks about where the actual idea for this knife came. So nice to actually get a little background on a blade that you're going to be using and to know a little bit of the history about the Bushcraft UK from Spyderco. So as I start the review here, let's talk about why I chose this particular knife. Now, if you're into bushcraft or wilderness survival, you'll know that there are tons of opinions about all the different types of knives out there, and everybody has the reasons why they have their favorite knife. So you can talk about a basic Mora up to the BK2, you can talk about condor knives, you can talk about blind horse. There's just tons and tons of knives out there, but I've noticed that not a lot of people talk about this knife from Spyderco when they're talking about bushcraft or wilderness survival knives. So I thought, I know Spyderco makes great products. If you talk about folding knives or EDC knives, people just love Spyderco's blades, what they have to offer. So I thought, let's get a hold of this knife and review it. And if this knife is as well made as their EDC or their folding knives are, well, this is going to be a great option for those of us who are into bushcrafting or wilderness survival. We're out here in the woods now to continue our testing on the Spyderco Bushcraft UK. And I'm doing this review a little bit different than I have with some of my other knife reviews. Rather than talking through all the specs there in the studio and then coming out and testing it, I basically just gave you a very quick rundown, and now I'm out here, I'm gonna get right into using it, and then we'll go talk about some of the details after the fact. I thought that might be a good way to do it, rather than getting kind of biased by saying, oh, it's this type of steel and I like it or I don't like it, or it's this type of edge and I like it or I don't like it. Let's just get out there and use it, give it some testing in the field, and then take it back and we can talk about those details. When it comes to actually carrying the knife, it's very easy to set up. Run your belt through the loop that's built into the sheath, and now the knife is right here on your side. It will move back and forth depending on where you set it up on your belt and where the loops are for your belt, but very secure here. I have no concerns about it falling out or me losing the sheath or the knife. We'll start off now with some classic bushcrafting here, and this is just some batoning. Here's a look at our pile of wood, and I would say the wood I was batoning through was a mixture of wet, because it has been pretty damp here in New Hampshire, and then also that last piece I was batoning through had quite a few knots at the top of it. So I had to hit the blade pretty aggressively to get it to go through that knot and continue on through the wood. The blade doesn't look any worse for the wear, so this knife definitely gets a thumbs up when it comes to batoning it for making firewood for your survival, your camping, or outdoor application. Next we'll be doing a test to see how strong the tip of the knife is, and so I'll just be stabbing it into this tree and bending it to see if there's any issues there. And as you can see here, tip of the blade looks good on both sides. Next we'll do some finer work, and we'll see if we can get some small shavings ready if we were going to start a fire. Here's what our final product looks like. So you can see that it does do quite well. And again, a reminder, this is the factory edge, so it does come very sharp directly to you from Spyderco. One final test for the Bushcraft UK from Spyderco is we're going to baton down this small sapling behind me and make it into a fishing spear. So we'll be giving this knife multiple tests in the process of making this one implement. Next up, we have to take all this wood off of the spear because it's going to be too much. So we'll just do that down here by holding the knife. The tree is under my arm a little bit here. We're just going to cut through like so, so it's weak enough to break it off. Since the tree is live, it's a little bit harder to do. But there you go. Now there's your other end. Next up, we're going to split this piece of wood both this way, and that'll make 4 prongs for the end of our fishing spear. And this is something you want to be a little bit more gentle with because you don't want to destroy the spear by being too aggressive in the process. So, see, I'm batoning a little bit more gently than I was prior. Next thing I did was just found 2 small sticks like this, and we're going to slide these between 2 of the prongs this way and 2 of the prongs this way. And we'll force these down a little bit, but you can see already that we've got 4 prongs that just need to be sharpened up. So here's the process we have so far. You can see I've sharpened up the tips of the spear. I haven't put any barbs in yet, but I would do that next. I've shortened these 2 sticks. I would next put some cordage around here of some sort to keep it nice and secure. And you can see basically from beginning to end with the Bushcraft UK from Spyderco, I was able to create a very basic but usable fish spear. As you can see with this, we've made this. So the Bushcraft UK from Spyderco, we have done some batoning, we've done some finer work, and then we've also fashioned this fish spear. And basically everything else I need to do for the fish spear to finish it up, I can do with the Spyderco, and I also just need to get some cordage as well. All right, let's head back to the studio to wrap up the review. All right, back here in the studio to wrap up our review on the Spyderco Bushcraft UK. First thing let's talk about is the sheath. Made of leather, very durable. You've got 2, 4, 6 grommets, so you can run paracord through there if you want to attach it, you know, very securely to your leg or maybe tie it to a pack, whatever it might be. Another feature is that inside, and I don't think you could see just because it's too dark, but down inside the sheath, down at about this point, there's actually a small piece of plastic that the blade tip is going to rest in, so it's not going to be cutting the sheath apart. So that's a nice feature. One thing I will note is make sure that you do get it actually into, when it goes down and it goes into the piece of plastic and doesn't run down the side on one side of the plastic or down the other side of the plastic. So just be aware of that. Easy to get on, easy to get off of your belt. So this is very nicely made. I have no concerns about that ever wearing out or breaking on me. Before I give you my final thoughts on the Spyderco Bushcraft UK, let me just give you some of the specs. End to end, 8.75 inches. Your blade length is 4.1 inches. Your blade steel is 01 tool steel. Your cutting edge, they note, is 3.938 inches. Your weight is 7.8 ounces. And your blade thickness is 0.14 inches. And your handle material is G10. Aesthetically, I find this to be a very nice looking knife. It's got that classic bushcraft look, but it also has a little bit of that Spyderco flavor, as is true in the Spyderco knives. They all have that hole cut out there, and so they continue that in this bushcraft knife. The G10 handles, very nice looking. They do have some design there. I'll hold this up for you so you can see it, both sides. And that's a little something extra. You know, a knife like this, basically your standard bushcraft knife that looks something similar to this, is going to be sleek and streamlined and simple, I think, and in my opinion, beautiful in the way they made it. So they definitely get a thumbs up for that. Pluses for the steel, 01 tool steel, very sharp. As I mentioned, it does come very sharp from the factory, and it will hold an edge. The major downside is that you do have to clean it after use. So just be aware of that if you're going to be out in the woods for a long time using this knife. You want to make sure that you have something to clean it regularly. It is also very strong. As you can see here, it is a full tang knife, and that 01 tool steel is obviously very strong. So, you know, you're definitely going to be able to use this, and you saw with the infield test that it did hold up quite well. For a standard kind of bushcraft knife, this is the classic size. So for some people, this is a little bit short. They want a little bit longer of a knife, maybe longer of a handle. For me, I like this size knife. I feel like it's very manageable, and yet could still do the job for some larger tasks. So that's a preference thing, but I do like this size of knife. I could probably take a little bit more, you know, maybe if the blade came out another 3/4 of an inch or an inch, that would be fine. If it gets too much bigger than that, for me, in general, I find it a little bit less wieldy than I would prefer. The grip for the handle, it's not textured at all, so that you're not going to have any jimping to get extra grip on it, but that's done purposefully so that you don't get any hot spots. So that's, again, a preference thing and a plus or minus depending on, you know, if you're using it very aggressively and you want to have something that's got jimping for extra control, well, you're not going to have that on this knife, but you also are not going to get hot spots if you're using it for a long time. Cost is going to be in the $175 to $200 range, so it's not super cheap, but you are getting a Spyderco knife, a very nicely made knife, and you know they're a good company that's going to give you good backing, so if you have any issues with them, you can certainly contact them and they'll work with you. So overall, quite a nice knife. I think the major challenge for people is going to be the price point, and then the fact that you need to keep that blade cleaned very often, you know, whenever you're done using it. If those are the two downsides, though, the major upsides are good looking knife, strong, sharp edge, very durable. You're not going to get any hot spots. And, you know, again, overall, Spyderco, just a top-notch company. So if you have any issues, they're going to be great to work with. I don't see anything, any challenges with this knife when it comes to, you know, I have no concerns about, do I see any weak spots or any issues? I think it's going to be a strong bushcrafting wilderness survival knife that's going to last for many years for me. So there you go. That's the end of our review of the Spyderco Bushcraft UK. As always, we invite you to subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids here on YouTube. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check us out on Tumblr. Take care.